Every single political commentator in America, every single one of them knows this, that if you do not step out and say things that are radically pro-Israel, or if you are too quiet on certain narratives and they want you to be radically pro-Israel, you can lose everything. That's truth. That is a fact. I'm not feeling like I need to hide from that anymore or be afraid to say it, rather, is a better way to say it, because I've endured this for years. I'm just at the end of my rope. I have given so much rope here, and I am just done with it. Every person that you are a fan of, they know this. Every person that you line up to go here speak, they know this. Again, it's not even on the basis of what you say. It can sometimes be on the basis of what you don't say. That an entire mob will assemble. They'll write piece after piece after piece until you subjugate. If you don't subjugate, the bounty grows larger. So yes, there was a large bounty on my head for the crime of refusing to suddenly hate Muslims and to condone Muslims getting bombed following October 7th. Everybody can see that.
All right, guys, so we have an update on the Daily Wire Candace Owens drama that most of you guys probably are familiar with, and you're probably tired of it, okay? I'm actually tired of it already as well, too. I'm actually tired of the conservative infighting. However, I do think that the backlash against the Daily Wire is fascinating, because what they did when they fired Candace Owens was kind of a mask-off moment for the Daily Wire, showing people that, hey, you know, these people, they're really not living up to what they brand themselves as, which is a company that's supposed to be pro-freedom of speech and anti-cancel culture. And before anybody in the comment section says that, well, this is not about freedom of speech and cancel culture, I'm going to address that, okay? Because I think that this specific situation right here and why Candace Owens got fired is becoming more and more and more obvious, especially considering the actions of the Daily Wire and some of their hosts after the firing. Like for example, Andrew Klavan coming out here and getting triggered by Candace Owens and other people saying that Christ is king, okay? Apparently, Christ is king has become an anti-Semitic trope. This is something that people at the Daily Wire, some of the hosts there, have been saying. And again, that kind of confirms that, hey, you know, the Daily Wire claims that they are pro freedom of speech and that they give their hosts the ability to express their opinions on certain topics, as long as it's not illegal. Okay. This is what Jeremy Bowen said, before, when there was question about whether or not the Daily Wire would fire Candace when she first got into the spat between, her and Ben Shapiro. However, when he was questioned in a X space about the firing of Candace Owens, not only did he refuse to talk about it, he essentially confirmed that he did in fact fire Candace Owens, but he basically somewhat alluded to the fact that, yeah, he would not hire somebody who agrees with conservatives 99%, but if you disagree on that issue, then you can't work for the Daily Wire. Take a look.
Hey, Jeremy, I have a question.
Can I jump in?
Can I just ask this real quick, Nick? I'm sorry. I want to issue you a hypothetical, and I just want to get your response to it. Say you've got a really amazing opportunity to hire a conservative commentator, 20 years of experience, never set a foot out of line, just really strong conservative economic values, strong social conservative values, fits in right with what the audience of the Daily Wire is looking for. But that person starts making criticisms that are similar to what Candace Owens has been making in the past 3 months or so, and everything else about their record is just perfect. Would you consider hiring that person? Like, would that person have a slot at the Daily Wire or no?
Are you trying to ask me why I fired Candace Owens?
No, I'm asking you if you would hire someone with a beautiful, spotless track record of 20 years of amazing conservative values, but they made the same criticisms that Candace Owens has made in the past couple of months. Would that person have a job at the Daily Wire?
Was Candace Owens a conservative for 20 years?
I'm not saying that. I'm giving a hypothetical.
No, Candace was not conservative for 20 years. So no, this is not a Candace Owens.
Yeah, I'm not gonna...
This is the next Jordan Peterson. This is the next Jordan Peterson. Going to sell millions of books, going to make you guys millions of dollars, getting millions of views on every video they post. But they've made the same criticisms Candace has made in the last 6 months. Does that person have a job?
Yeah, I'm not... Even this is too close to the Candace thing for me to speak to, because I feel like there are implications of this that I'm not willing to engage in. But if your question is, would I hire You know, would I hire Bill Whittle if Bill Whittle suddenly said that there's a genocide going on in Gaza? No, I don't think that that's a person that I would hire at the Daily Wire.
Yeah, so you see now you hear that. You can agree with the Daily Wire hosts and their core audience 99%, which that's basically what Candace Owens did. But yet, if you have a different opinion when it comes to this Israel and Palestine/Gaza situation, then that is a fireable offense. Now, that is a far cry from what Jeremy Boring was saying back before, when there were initially speculation about whether or not Candace would be fired. Okay, he claimed that, hey, I give my hosts room to have their opinions on certain topics. But it is clear that the line is crossed when you don't agree with the Daily Wire when it comes to Israel and Gaza. That seems to be the takeaway here. Now, Ben Shapiro was confronted by Piers Morgan, and Ben Shapiro refused to address the situation of Candace getting fired. Take a look.
One of the consequences of this war has been a lot of very high passions on both sides, a lot of angry disagreements. You and your company have been at the center of a very high-profile one at the moment with Candace Owens, who's now left Daily Wire. Was she fired, or did she leave of her own volition?
I'm not going to speak to this topic, Piers.
At all?
At all.
You can't give me any insight into why she departed?
No hints, no nothing. I'm not going to speak to this.
Can I ask why?
I mean, you can ask.
No, I'm not. Can I ask why you don't want to say anything?
Again, you can ask.
I'm only curious because I know what a staunch defender of free speech you are, and it would surprise me if it had been someone's opinions that would make you want to part company with them, however contentious.
I mean, suffice it to say, the only thing I will say is what I've said all along with regard to Candace or with regard to any of our other hosts. I am not in hiring and firing position with the Daily Wire. I'm a co-founder of the Daily Wire. I'm a co-owner of the Daily Wire. I'm not actually in management. Jeremy Boring and Caleb Robinson are in management positions with regard to Candace or anyone else. And as far as the free speech situation, what I will say is that no company has the obligation to literally pay anyone. The Daily Wire is a publisher. It is not a platform. I've never called for Candace or anyone else for that matter to be banned from YouTube, to be banned from X, to be banned from any platform. That's a different story, obviously, when it comes to any publisher. Any publisher gets to make decisions about what it wishes to purvey and not.
I mean, I'm just not going to labor this, but one more point I would make is it's been reported extensively that the reason for her departure was because her comments have been perceived by people at the Daily Wire as anti-Semitic.
Again, I'm not going to comment on this, Piers.
Okay.
Yeah, so you see now you heard that. Okay, you have Ben Shapiro refusing to answer questions from Piers Morgan, who simply just asked, hey, what happened at Daily Wire? Why did Candace get fired? Now, I'm not surprised that Ben Shapiro is refusing to answer questions, despite the fact that a lot of people are speculating that he is behind Candace Owens being fired, or part of the reason why she got fired, because Ben Shapiro has shown that clearly and obviously her comments that she's making in regards to the Israel-Gaza situation are comments that he doesn't agree with, okay? And there are people who believe that what Candace Owens is saying is anti-Semitic. And the reason why they believe that is because Candace Owens basically said that I don't think that genocide is okay. Okay, she has a problem with what Israel is doing in regards to their self-defense operation. This is what they call it. I'm trying to be fair to Israel here. In which, you know, hey, it just so happens that children are being killed. And Candace is saying, look, morally, I have an issue with that. I don't like seeing children being killed. I don't think that that's okay. Now, me personally, you know, hey, I think having opinions on both sides of this issue is fair. I don't think that anything that Candace said is anti-Semitic. I think that what she said was reasonable. Okay, I think she has a reasonable opinion that, in my opinion, is more nuanced than people who are 100% pro-Israel and, you know, act like Israel does nothing wrong. Everything they do is justified, versus people who essentially are sympathizing with Hamas, okay, and are making excuses for Hamas and why they committed that terrorist attack on October 7th, okay? I think that Candace is in kind of a rare space, especially when it comes to this issue, but apparently essentially being neutral on the issue is a problem for the Daily Wire, despite the fact that the Daily Wire claims that, hey, we allow our hosts to have their opinions, and as long as it's not illegal, we're cool with it, right? Like, for example, this is what Jeremy Boring said back in November. He says, I am currently on a leave of absence from my executive duties at the Daily Wire while overseas producing whatever movie they're coming up with. In my current capacity, I cannot fire Candace Owens. That's something Ben and I have in common, since he is also not an executive in the company and cannot hire or fire people. Now, apparently, Jeremy Boring lied about this because he alluded to this idea that he fired Candace Owens during that X space that I showed you guys at the beginning of this video. But again, I'm not entirely sure if he is solely responsible, but it seems like he definitely had a say. So he's not being 100% truthful about his ability to hire and fire people at the company, in my opinion. But even if we could, we would not fire Candace because of another thing we have in common: a desire to not regulate the speech of our hosts, even when we disagree with them. Candace is paid to give her opinion, not mine or Ben's, unless those opinions run afoul of the law or she violates the terms of her contract in some way. Her job is secure and she is welcome at the Daily Wire. Now, here's my problem with what Jeremy's saying. Okay, here's my problem. Okay, because one, what he's saying is contradictory to what they just did, okay? Candace agrees with the Daily Wire on 99.9% of issues, okay? She is a conservative. And while I agree with Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro with the fact that, hey, you are a publisher and you're not obligated to platform everybody's opinions, I do agree with that. The problem is that with the Daily Wire, your whole brand is about, hey, we are a conservative free speech publisher, okay? We put out conservative opinions across the spectrum, except it seems like you don't allow opinions from conservatives who disagree with you on the topic of Israel, or who are too outspoken about their disagreement when it comes to the topic of Israel, because Matt Walsh also doesn't necessarily agree that we should be funding Israel and giving money to Israel, but he's not as outspoken about it as Candace is, right? He's not as overt in regards to his opposition to Israel as Candace, okay? Candace went as far as to essentially allude to this idea that Israel could be participating in a genocide, which again, some people see as anti-Semitic, because some people feel like Israel is being accused of that simply because they're Jews, rather than the fact that, you know, hey, children are being killed and that people see them trying to eradicate Hamas as an operation that would require them to eliminate a significant number of Palestinians. I mean, we're talking about maybe hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Palestinians, if they actually want to do what they say they want to do. So I think that's why people are using a genocide word. Now, do I think that word or term is too strong? Yeah, I think it's too strong. I'm not saying it's necessarily fair, but I don't think it's anti-Semitic. I think that in our current political discourse, that's not an opinion that is outside of normal discourse, right? That is what people are saying. Regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree with it, I don't think it's anti-Semitic to accuse Israel of genocide because you are upset about the fact that thousands of children are dying. And there are people out there who are accusing Israel of genocide because they just hate Israel, right? They just don't like Israel. They don't believe that the land belongs to them and that they should be there or that they have the right to exist. I'm not even saying that doesn't exist, right? I'm not saying that there's nobody that's critical of Israel that is anti-Semitic, but I'm just saying that I think a vast majority of the criticisms aren't necessarily anti-Semitism as much as it really is just an emotional reaction, in the sense that people are genuinely concerned about people dying in mass numbers, okay, from what they feel like is an occupation. Now, regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree with that, again, I don't think that it comes from a place of anti-Semitism, okay? And I don't think that that's where Candace is coming from, as much as she's coming from a place of genuinely being concerned about the mass loss of human life. So, with that being said, again, my problem here is that the Daily Wire, right, people like Ben Shapiro claim that, hey, you know, this is not an issue of free speech. This is not an issue of cancel culture. Any company reserves the right to pay whoever they want for their opinions, right? We don't have to pay Candace Owens for her opinion. And he's correct about that, except it seems that the Daily Wire didn't really feel that same way when it came to YouTube and when YouTube was demonetizing Daily Wire hosts for opinions that YouTube didn't like when it came to the issue of transgender individuals. You guys remember that? You guys remember the Daily Wire coming out and complaining about YouTube demonetizing Matt Walsh's channel? In which, by the way, if you notice, Matt Walsh don't really talk about that issue too much anymore. Well, the reason why is because he got back in line once YouTube demonetized that channel and Daily Wire started losing money. They told Matt Walsh, you can't really talk about this topic too much, right? This is why he doesn't really talk about it as much as he used to, because YouTube will take that money away, right? But regardless, they essentially asked for YouTube to be held to the standards that YouTube claims they believes in. Like, for example, Jeremy Boring put out this tweet. He says, YouTube claims, quote, the ability to openly debate political ideas, even those that are controversial, is core to a functioning democratic society. And then he goes on to demand that YouTube live up to their values, right? Live up to your values, YouTube. Okay? He says, so YouTube, will you honor your commitment to allow for open debate on this controversial idea, or are you too beholden to other powers? Wow. 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 Sounds to me like this same standard that they're trying to hold YouTube to is the same standard that should be applied to the Daily Wire. I got the same questions. Are you allowing open debate on a controversial idea, or are you too beholden to other powers? I think that question should be directed towards the Daily Wire, to be quite honest with you. He also says, it seems insane that a company claiming to value open debate could remove some of the biggest voices from its platform, calling our take, which is shared by over one half the country, hate speech and harassment. Wow, right? Wow. Again, the irony is stunning here. It really is. So I want you guys to understand, the Daily Wire wants YouTube as a company to uphold the values that they claim they have when it comes to free speech and open debate on controversial ideas. But yet they don't want to hold themselves to that standard when they claim that as a company, they believe in free speech, right? They think that free speech is fundamental. Okay, this is what this guy said. Okay, in a follow-up, YouTube is right. Free speech is fundamental to a functioning democracy, especially around our most debated issues. So again, when it comes to the Israel-Gaza situation, when it comes to that topic, all of that stuff that Daily Wire talked about, it goes out the window. Because again, Candace Owens agreed with the Daily Wire on 99% of things. Daily Wire had no issues with Candace Owens when she was spewing bigotry against blacks or against women, which is what she was accused of from the left, had no issues against that. But when it came to bigotry against Jews, oh, wait, that's too far. All of a sudden, that free speech goes out the window. We don't have to pay her, even though they begged YouTube to pay them in the name of free speech, right? Again, it's amazing how that works. Now, I don't want people to get it twisted. I'm not saying that the Daily Wire is required to platform everybody's viewpoints. No, because the Daily Wire is a conservative publisher, okay? And at the end of the day, I understand when you say that you are conservative and that, you represent conservative points of view, I don't expect you to go hire a liberal, right? Just like you shouldn't expect me to hire a liberal to host Black Conservative Perspective. I'm telling you what my perspective is and what you're going to get from my platform, right? From my channel. It's not like the mainstream liberal media claiming neutrality, but at the same time, discriminating against Trump supporters, right? Not allowing Trump supporters on the platform while also claiming that, hey, we're neutral, right? We're nonpartisan. That's not it. I'm not holding the Daily Wire to that standard, okay? So I'm not saying they must platform everybody's opinion regardless, but Candace Owens did not go beyond the pale. She did not sympathize with Hamas, okay? She did not justify what Hamas did. I don't even think she's necessarily on the side of the Palestinians. I personally believe that she's just neutral, right? I believe that she's neutral and she genuinely feels bad for the loss of life. And she thinks that, hey, what Israel is doing in response isn't necessarily right. Now, regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree with that, I don't think that's anti-Semitism. And the fact that apparently the Daily Wire or people at the Daily Wire believe that it is tells you everything you need to know. that the Daily Wire is not really living up to the values that they claim when it comes to conservative free speech and platforming conservative viewpoints. If your conservative viewpoint does not align with their viewpoint when it comes to a foreign conflict, when it comes to a certain foreign country. Which, again, I think is a mistake, because there are conservatives that are critical of Israel. Every conservative is not aligned with Israel, okay? Every conservative doesn't believe that everything that Israel does is right. There are some conservatives that believe that we shouldn't be funding Israel, okay, or we should not be funding this war, okay, that they're doing in Gaza for various reasons, okay? And there are good reasons to have that opinion. And that doesn't make you anti-Semitic. And when you fire one of your hosts at a company that claims to believe in free speech and, hey, we want to platform conservative opinions across the spectrum, that brings up a lot of questions about, okay, are you conservative first or are you pro-Israel first? Okay, if you don't agree with everything Israel does, it doesn't matter how conservative you are, we're not going to allow your viewpoint on our platform, right? Or we're not going to allow you to get paid by us to publish your opinion, because, again, you have to align with us on this foreign conflict, or else all of your other conservative opinions don't really matter. So, again, it's almost like you are pro-conservative free speech, except when it comes to that one issue, which means you're not actually really pro-free speech, because, again, conservatives have opinions across the board when it comes to various issues. We don't all agree on the same thing. And I think it's disrespectful to conservatives that don't necessarily agree that everything Israel does is right to fire somebody because, again, they don't agree that everything that Israel does is right, which has become apparent and clear that that is, in fact, what happened. She got fired because she didn't agree on that one issue, despite agreeing with the Daily Wire on 99% of issues. And, again, I think that this whole situation is an eye-opener in regards to the Daily Wire and what they actually really stand for. And I just think they're making the wrong move, man. I think everything that they're doing in response to this conflict is not good for their company in the long run. But who knows? They're good business people, okay? So they'll probably be fine, okay? Candace will be fine. I just think that this is really a mask-off moment for that company, and I don't think that they're handling this the right way. But, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.